How do you fight an enemy you can't see? And worse, who's already inside your mind and machines? What if humans never needed an army to win a war? What if the enemy's own weapons became their doom? The invasion began without warning. From the edges of the solar system, an armada of massive alien warships appeared, cutting through the silence of space like predatory shadows. They were the Zenith, a brutal intergalactic empire that had crushed dozens of worlds beneath their iron rule. Earth, with its underdeveloped technology and fractured governments, was deemed an easy conquest, a final prize before they turned their attention to even greater expansions. The Zenith expected minimal resistance. They had invaded countless worlds and faced countless species, all of whom buckled before their overwhelming firepower. But Earth was different. On the first day, alien warships descended into Earth's orbit, their metallic hulls gleaming in the sunlight as they hovered ominously above the major cities. New York, Beijing, London, Sydney, all under the dark shadow of alien vessels that blocked out the sky. Alien commanders expected panic and surrender. They had witnessed it time and time again. Frantic leaders, terrified citizens, and helpless resistance forces scrambling to save what little they could. Yet this time there was nothing. Earth's cities remained strangely quiet. No evacuation orders were issued. No fighter jets scrambled to meet the alien invaders. The streets remained still, the airwaves silent. The only sound was the faint hum of alien engines as they held their positions above the cities like predators waiting for prey. The Zenith command watched, perplexed. Where were the armies? The soldiers? The desperate broadcasts begging for peace or mercy? No nation even acknowledged the invasion. The world stood as if nothing had changed, and that made the aliens uneasy. Have they surrendered already? Commander Voth, a grizzled veteran of the Zenith army, wondered aloud from the bridge of the flagship Oblivion. Impossible, his lieutenant replied, narrowing his reptilian eyes. There have been no signs of communication or submission. It's almost like, he hesitated, searching for the right words. Like they're gone. But the humans hadn't fled. Nor had they surrendered. They had simply vanished. And the aliens didn't know why. As the Zenith forces descended into Earth's cities to secure their dominance, they encountered something far stranger than resistance. Emptiness. Buildings were left untouched. Streets were eerily clean. Thousands of homes and offices stood abandoned, as if the occupants had simply walked out the door and never returned. Power plants still hummed, satellites remained in orbit, and yet, there were no humans to be found. No bodies, no signs of struggle. The world had become a ghost town. Alien soldiers marched through the streets, scanning for lifeforms. Their sensors detected traces of human DNA, on doorknobs, seats, computers, but nothing living. No humans greeted them with raised hands or white flags. All cities report the same condition. One of Voth's scouts transmitted, his voice cracking with disbelief. It's like, everyone just left. The planet is functional, but the people are gone. It was on the third day that things started to go wrong. It began with small anomalies. Command stations aboard the Zenith starships reported strange malfunctions in their systems. At first, it was written off as human interference, perhaps lingering signals from abandoned communication networks. But as hours passed, the malfunctions grew more severe. Weapons wouldn't fire, navigation systems recalculated random coordinates, and data files began disappearing without explanation. By the fourth day, confusion turned into panic. Entire segments of the alien fleet went dark, unable to receive or transmit signals. Commanders tried to communicate with their ground forces, but transmissions were either intercepted or lost in transit. Worst of all, alien databases began broadcasting strange messages. Short phrases, jokes, or even memes in human languages, all mocking the Zenith invasion. Commander Voth stared at one such message on the control console of the Oblivion. It read, "Welcome to Earth. Please enjoy your stay. Would you like to hear a joke?" Voth smashed the console in frustration, but the message reappeared on a different screen. Somehow, humans, despite being unseen and unarmed, were still waging a war. Days turned into chaos. Alien troops stationed on Earth reported bizarre occurrences. Drones would suddenly fall from the sky, their circuits fried by some invisible force. Supply convoys were rerouted by hijacked GPS signals, sending them in circles across empty highways. Factories set up to produce Zenith weapons suddenly exploded in flames, though no human sabotage teams were ever found. Most unnervingly, alien soldiers began to complain of strange sensations, as if someone was watching them. Some swore they could hear whispers at night, voices speaking in languages they couldn't understand. Others said they had dreams. Dreams of cities filled with laughing, defiant humans, daring them to stay on Earth a moment longer. The alien commanders attempted to rally their forces, insisting it was all psychological warfare, but morale among the troops began to falter. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot predict? How do you win a war against ghosts? Voth sat in the dimly lit war room of the Oblivion, trying to make sense of the madness unraveling before him. His forces, the most powerful in the galaxy, were falling apart. Not because of firepower or resistance, but because of something more terrifying, the unknown. Reports from across Earth painted the same picture. Alien equipment malfunctioned with no explanation, sabotage occurred without culprits, and soldiers grew paranoid, reporting hallucinations and irrational fears. The humans had taken an unconventional approach to war, a war without battles, without armies, without weapons. And it was working. There, inside our systems, one of Voth's engineers muttered, frantically trying to regain control of the corrupted starship functions. They're not fighting us physically. They're breaking us from the inside, bit by bit. What do you mean? Voth growled. The engineer turned, pale and trembling. The humans aren't gone, Commander. They never left. They've just become something we can't fight. By the end of the first week, the Zenith fleet was in full disarray. Entire warships drifted aimlessly, their engines shut down by inexplicable failures. Ground forces abandoned their posts, too frightened to remain in cities that felt alive with unseen presence. Even seasoned commanders, hardened from countless wars, admitted to feeling a growing sense of dread. It wasn't the resistance they feared, it was the absence of it. And then, as mysteriously as they had arrived, the alien invaders began to leave. Warships that had once hovered over Earth's cities lifted off, one by one, fleeing into the dark expanse of space. The Zenith had encountered something they could not understand, something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. A species that did not play by any known rules. As the last of the alien ships disappeared from orbit, a message appeared on every Zenith console, from the smallest drone to the largest warship. You thought we'd fight you with guns? Welcome to humanity's game. Thanks for playing. And with that, Earth fell silent once more. The day humanity disappeared was not the day they surrendered. It was the day they changed the rules of war forever. The Zenith fleet had been decimated. Not by force, but by fear, chaos, and confusion. As their warships drifted aimlessly in space, and soldiers abandoned their posts in panic, the truth began to dawn upon them. The humans had not disappeared at all. They had simply become something else, something far more dangerous than any army. When Commander Voth's flagship, Oblivion, finally managed to restore a small fragment of its corrupted data files, the pieces of humanity's plan became disturbingly clear. Human governments and militaries had anticipated the alien invasion, but rather than fight a battle they knew they couldn't win, they chose to vanish from the front lines altogether. They left behind not weapons, but an idea so brilliant and unconventional that the Zenith, with all their might, couldn't comprehend it until it was too late. Humans didn't need armies. They needed minds. Using their unparalleled creativity, humans uploaded the battle to the digital world. AI programs, rogue algorithms, and cyber viruses began dismantling the Zenith war machines from within, without a single human soldier firing a shot. Every weapon the aliens deployed was sabotaged, every communication system hijacked, and every attempt at retaliation rendered useless by cascading failures. The battlefield wasn't Earth. The battlefield was information, and in this war, the humans were the undisputed masters. The brilliance of humanity's plan lay not just in technology, but in psychology. They knew that the Zenith's strength was their ability to crush enemies through sheer force and intimidation. But what happens when a conqueror has no one to intimidate? When every act of aggression yields no resistance, only silence and sabotage. The humans had become invisible guerrilla warriors. They were everywhere and nowhere at once. Ghosts in the machines, whispers in the darkness, and glitches in the systems. They weaponized uncertainty, turning the Zenith's own expectations against them. In moments of stillness, alien commanders thought they could feel the presence of humans lurking just beyond their sensors, waiting to strike. But no strike ever came. Instead, the very tools the Zenith relied on betrayed them at the most critical moments. Every failed launch, every corrupted system, every ghostly message on their screens was a reminder. They were not in control. It was only after the Zenith fleet had suffered weeks of relentless sabotage that Voth began to understand the scope of the human strategy. Every abandoned city, every quiet street, it had all been a trap. By withdrawing from the conventional battlefield, humanity forced the aliens to play a new game, a game the aliens did not know how to win. Voth realized too late that the humans were never truly gone. They had decentralized their forces, scattering themselves across the globe and beyond. Scientists, hackers, and engineers worked from underground bunkers, remote stations, and hidden networks. Civilians became soldiers not with guns, but with lines of code. From the shadows, humanity had launched the most devastating guerrilla war the universe had ever seen. A war fought with information, sabotage, and psychological manipulation. As days turned into weeks, the Zenith fleet grew weaker and more fractured. The paranoia among alien soldiers reached unbearable levels. They couldn't trust their weapons, their communications, or even their own minds. Soldiers abandoned their posts en masse, refusing to patrol empty cities that felt alive with unseen dangers. What frightened the Zenith most wasn't the malfunctioning equipment or the disrupted supply lines. It was the humans' unpredictability. Every strategy the aliens devised was outmaneuvered in ways they couldn't comprehend. Every attempt to secure a foothold was sabotaged before it even began. The humans had turned chaos into their greatest weapon, and the aliens, with all their technology, were utterly defenseless against it. Commander Voth stared out from the bridge of his crippled warship, watching the flickering remains of his once mighty fleet drifting in orbit. He knew then, with cold certainty, that the Zenith had lost not because of inferior firepower, but because they had underestimated humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt, innovate, and survive. They don't need armies, Voth whispered bitterly. They just need ideas. As the last of the Zenith warships retreated from Earth's orbit, the message appeared once more on every alien screen. This is Earth. Don't come back. And just like that, the humans reclaimed their world, not with guns or armies, but with ingenuity, resilience, and unrelenting defiance. They had fought a war without fighting, and in doing so, they had proven something extraordinary. It's not the size of the army that wins battles. It's the mind behind it. When the war was finally over, humanity re-emerged from their bunkers, satellites, and underground networks. The streets filled with life once more. Children playing, families rebuilding, and communities reconnecting. They had survived an invasion not by brute force, but by changing the very rules of war. It wasn't just a victory. It was a revolution in how battles were fought. In the years that followed, humanity became a legend across the stars, a species unlike any other. News of the Zenith's defeat spread throughout the galaxy, and soon other empires thought twice before threatening Earth. The story of the Invisible War became a cautionary tale told in alien war rooms. Beware of humans. They fight wars without armies, and they always win. But humanity's true victory wasn't just in repelling the Zenith. It was in the lesson they had taught the universe. There is no greater weapon than the power of the mind, no greater strategy than adaptation, and no greater strength than unity in the face of overwhelming odds. They had proven once and for all that survival wasn't about being the strongest. It was about being the smartest. And in the vast, unpredictable cosmos, that was a power no alien empire could ever hope to conquer. As Earth settled into its new era of peace, one final message was transmitted out into the stars. addressed to any future invaders who might consider challenging humanity. We are humanity. We don't fight wars the way you do. We fight to survive, and we always will. If you come for us, be ready, because you won't just face an army. You'll face all of us. And with that, the story of the war without armies came to an end. The Zenith had learned the hard way that Earth was not a planet to be conquered, because the greatest strength of humanity is not in its weapons, but in its will to survive.